Hey, yo, the pizza here. Oh, nigga. My ears burn.
Well, gang, it's official. The new Jojolands chapter dropped, and Jodio and crew are dead-ass getting their asses beat by a cat. This is peak Jojo, I will have no debate. This chapter is pretty much entirely made up of Jojoland's first real fight. By the way, I say first real fight because I honestly don't really count Rohan's house arc as like an actual fight. Hey, it was Kino, don't get me wrong, but like, it was less of a fight and more Araki lore dumping while jerking off his self-insert. And bros, this might only be the first fight, but Araki is proving to us that he has not lost a step with part 9, and he's already bugging out harder than he's ever bugged before. Only 6 chapters in, let's talk about it. For starters, yo, I need to talk about this damn cover page because oh my god, why does this image go so hard? Araki did not need to go that crazy for this. It's not like an ultra jump front page or anything like the ones in chapter 1 or 4, but bro still drew the squad hitting some NWA Backstreet Boys album cover head-ass poses in a hallway with money walls and bills falling out of the ceiling. Bro, my inner Vince McMahon fan is busting the fattest of nuts at this cover right now. It is crazy. As for the chapter itself, we pretty much begin right where we left off. We get a tiny little break between arcs moment where Jodio gets some time to narrate his thoughts on the Rohan encounter, and the crew get to have some banter and figure out some lore. It's a lot of fun. Jodio's little voiceover narrations at the start were actually like a hugely cool part of the chapter for me, since it really lets us dig into his psyche. For one, we find out that he doesn't actually want to be a criminal forever, which at first seems to be a contradiction with bro's chapter 1 persona of I fucking love crime, I get so many hoes by my crack. But honestly, it really doesn't. Jodio, just like everyone else I know who traps, doesn't actually want to trap. Bro just wants to secure enough money to allow him to stop trapping and fall out. He's doing it to get filthy rich, not for love of the game. And that exact mindset is why he's so baffled at Rohan and what he said when he gave him the lava rock. I'm entrusting this to you. I'm not giving it away.
You want my treasure? You can have it. I left everything I gathered together in one place.
We'll get back to that later, but that certainly went well, didn't it? Jodio genuinely can't fathom why Rohan was so cool with him even after all the threats, and the word entrusts has him nervous, because it makes him feel like the lava has some grand purpose that he honestly doesn't give a shit about, which I think is really funny. I like that Araki's low-key kind of poking fun at himself with this bit, having even the main character of his own manga be like, hey yo, this some wild-ass MacGuffin, isn't it? That gave me a little giggle, I liked it. Speaking of the lava rock, the crew finally put 2 and 2 together and figured out what that weirdo shit does. In short, it returns things to people. And yeah, even just given the way Jodio said the word returns here, I have a feeling it's gonna be this part's version of equivalent exchange. And low-key, I'm curious on how it'll turn out. The lava's teleporting power is, to me at least, a bit cooler than having bits of you turn into rock after eating a fruit, just because it's more active. Like, there was only ever really one moment in Jojolion where the Rokakaka affecting someone really changed a fight, and it was Mitsuba during Dr. Wu. Also, Kira and Josefumi, I guess, but I don't know if they count. They were already dying. The lava rock's powers are directly what got the squad caught up in the cat stand's attacks, not the rock being fought over or anything, and I think that's really cool. As for the cat stand, which I'm just gonna call the Pussycat Dolls for the rest of the video, because that name fits insanely perfectly, and I'm a sucker for 2000s era diva pop. Man, this is on God one of my favorite minor JoJo villains already, and the reason why is exclusively because bro is just a fucking cat. I love that. I mean, Pussycat Dolls could have easily just been some bozo who seems decently intimidating at first, but becomes immediately forgettable as soon as the arc ends. But instead, I'm always gonna remember that time Jodio got his ass beat by a literal cat. Dude, this fight starts with this thing bamboozling Jodio into triggering one of its tripwires, and it's all downhill from there. First thing I like to say about it though, wow, this stand is gorier than I thought. Tripwire aside, the bit where some of the wire snakes around on its own and hits Paco and Dragona with a fucked up sideways human centipede was brutal and definitely left me shook the first time I read it. Low-key though, I've noticed that especially with this chapter, Paco and Dragona tend to have a lot of scenes together, don't they? It's interesting. Paco's introduction heavily featured Dragona, he tends to speak the most with Dragona, and here they've been fucking stapled together. They seem to have a friendship at least, but I'm definitely gonna have to keep an eye on them as a pair going forward. Speaking of eyes on people though, nobody had eyes on my boy Filthy Frank, because near the end of the chapter, the trio look around and realize Usagi all their shit and the car have disappeared out of nowhere. And this does definitely seem to support the usagi is evil / the doppio diavolo of the alternate universe theory I've seen floating around a few times, but I'm not so sure, at least not yet. For one, this scene was kind of played for laughs, especially juxtaposing Paco's insane reaction with the car just slowly being driven away in the background. That shit was hilarious. Plus, a bit of meta knowledge, bro, it's chapter 6. We got introduced to these clowns in February. I don't see us getting our top 10 anime betrayal moments just yet. Usagi will probably come back and save the day by the end of the arc. Now, that doesn't mean I disagree with the villain Usagi theory. Between the speech Rohan gave last chapter and the ghosting he's doing this chapter, he's definitely sus. But I feel like this is more of a moment we'll look back on by the end of the part and pop off at the foreshadowing instead of the actual reveal. Overall, as for usual with the Jojolands, the chapter was fire. I don't think it topped chapter 5 for me, but honestly, I don't know if anything could. Chapter 5 was a whole ass 11 out of 10 mega kino experience for me, and chapter 6 was just a normal 10 out of 10. But the story's still moving forward, the pacing is great, and honestly, I'm just hype. Can't wait for next month to see where it all goes from here. TLDR, if Usagi really does end up turning heel on the squad, I want his other personality to be called Joji. Come on, Araki, lean into it. Just make my boy Filthy Frag, please.
Man, I can never be dry. Hit me up, I got the merchandise. Gas so cold, they call me merchant ice. Blood now, born my merch with